Shadows crawl and nightmares call. Brace yourselves, one and all. It's the Scare Factor Podcast, Season 4.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Scare Factor Podcast, the #1 haunt podcast with humor drier than a corporate memo about laughter. My name is Bryan of Team Skelegore in Central New York. Joining me this evening are Morgan and Taylor of Team Brady Pack somewhere in the Midwest. Ladies, how's it going?
Oh, great.
Oh, it's been going really awesome.
Like to hear it. Anything new and fun and exciting happened since last week? Have you encountered any more ghosts since then?
Not yet, but we have a few really cool things planned out for Team Brady that'll be happening super soon.
Yeah, so stay tuned.
Excellent. I like to hear it. Things are not really any different for me in my world. This is my last week of work because I work in a school, so we're finishing up this week, and then after this week, I don't really have a lot going on, so I don't know what I'm going to do with my time all summer. Try to find another job, I guess.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, the job market kind of sucks right now where I'm at. This week we are talking about leaving customer reviews. How can you as a customer leave a better review that is good for the entire audience you're writing for, right? What should and shouldn't you say in a customer review, right? You go to a place and you leave a review on Google and it's one word. It just says good. That's not a good review. I mean, yeah, it has the word good in it. It is a review that says good. I suppose that is a good review, but not really helpful to the business owner, right? So this week we are talking about how to write informative and helpful reviews for other customers and the business owners that will be reading your reviews. Trust me. You left a review on some business, the owner or somebody at that company has read your review. So let's talk about mediums for reviews. Where can you leave a review? I mean, you've got the obvious ones, right? You got Google, Facebook, Yelp, for pretty much every business except for haunts. I think you'll find some haunts on there. There's Reddit, and of course, the Scare Factor, right? We have a section on each haunt listing where you can leave a customer review. Are there any that I'm missing here? Am I forgetting any?
Not that I can think of, no.
So, yeah, I mean, those are the major ones, right? Those are the ones where you're going to find the most people writing customer reviews of haunts. So the first thing we want to think about when we sit down, we've just gotten back from, I don't know, Hell's Gate or, Halloween Horror Nights at Universal, wherever it is that we've just gone. We're going to sit down and we're going to write a review. The first thing we need to figure out is who are we writing to? We need to identify that audience. And for me, I think the answer is simple. You are writing for everybody. And by everybody, I don't mean every single person in the whole world, because not every single person in the whole world is really applicable here. But you are writing for the haunt owner. You're writing for customers that are thinking about going. And you're writing for customers that have gone, right? So, I think that pretty closely follows, gets who you're writing for. When we write a review for the Scare Factor, that's really who we're writing for. We're trying to aim more towards the customers, but look, we get it. Haunt owners are reading our reviews. They're taking what we have to say in stride, and they're making improvements based on that. So like, who else do you think we're writing reviews for?
Probably just particular groups. Like, depending on the attraction, would depend on if it's like a family-friendly attraction, like for children, or if it's something that's extreme and you want those extreme enthusiasts that want to go.
Okay. So, and that's a really good point, right? Because if you're writing a customer review of a family-friendly haunt, the people reading that are going to be families that are looking to go to this place, right? So maybe you want to tailor your experience to, those families. You don't want to go in there and talk about like, oh man, this was the scariest scene I've ever encountered in a haunted house. Well, it's family friendly. Maybe it shouldn't be that scary. You also don't want to, go in dropping a lot of fuck words, right? That's probably not good. Families generally don't like that sort of thing. I mean, mine does, but it depends on the family.
Right.
On the other hand, if you're writing for those extreme haunts, the people who are going to extreme haunts, you could talk about the really gory details, right? I think that's a good point of, like who specifically is the audience, right? That's starting to narrow it down. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm not the only person on this show. Talk, please, for the love of God. I've got nothing to say.
No, I mean, you guys are definitely right. It depends, like, age group. Are we writing to teenagers who are just trying to have fun on the weekends to find a haunted house that's gonna scare them or make their girlfriends or boyfriends run, you know? Or are we writing for, like, older people? Like, is it a more extreme situation? Like, you guys are right on the noggin there.
So once you've identified that audience, we need to start thinking about what you should cover, right? Like what should be in a customer review? Probably more than just one word that says good or scary.
Exactly.
It's not helpful. So what do you guys think? Like what should be in a customer review? And just kind of generally speaking, what sort of points do you think you'd want to hit there?
I mean, there's a lot of points that I feel like would be useful in a review for a customer. Like, what was your experience like? Was it a good experience? Did you not enjoy it? Why didn't you enjoy it if you didn't? Or why did you if you did? Is there any information that was on the website that was inconsistent with what you did experience that other people should know about? Are there costs that are additional to what is on the website or what they market for? What to expect in general before you go? Is there anything you need to know before you go? Those kind of things.
Yeah, kind of like the level of how scary it is. Again, going back to the audience part, like if it's just the right amount of scary to scare a child, but not too terrible, then obviously family friendly. But if it's, again, too extreme, then maybe it's for the extremists. So you kind of want to know like a rating on how scary it is. I like Morgan's idea about the cost because some places base it on like their popularity is how much they'll charge a ticket for, and it's still not a decent price for what you actually get to witness. So maybe that could be a part of it.
We should have had Tiffany on this episode because she will talk all day and all night about haunts that charge oodles and oodles of money, and their show is just not that good. Apparently, the Pacific Northwest is notorious for that sort of thing. But yeah, I think you guys bring up some good points here. Like that inconsistent information, right? It doesn't say anything on their website about being touched, and you show up and these actors are touching you and they're groping you and whatever. It would have been great to know that ahead of time, right? Tell me on the website if there's an escape room that costs $10, that sort of thing. I think it's really important to make sure that your bases are covered in terms of information that you're putting out as a haunt and the information that guests are receiving, both from your website, your social media, whatever, and what they experience when they get to your haunt. Especially like special information you might need. Hey, by the way, we're not handicap accessible. Not that many haunts are, but maybe it's good to know that ahead of time.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Hey, can we bring Mimo in her walker in the scooter?
I mean, you can try.
What you mean you ain't handicap accessible? I'm gonna report y'all to the federal government. Just things you should know ahead of time, right? So like, what do people want to know then? I mean, they want to know the obvious. Like, was it scary?
Things on the outside are just as important as things on the inside. The midway is super important. Like, what offerings do they have there? And what to expect before you get into the haunt, after you get out of the haunt. Like, those things are just as important as the inside, what happens on the inside.
That's very true. It's really important that what's happening all over the place, is going to leave a lasting impression on your customers, right? So your common areas outside your fire pit, your movie screen, your cube actors, all that stuff, the customer service especially, because people love to bitch about bad customer service, and I'm one of them. Oh yeah. Oh, I'll tear your ass up over bad customer service all day long.
No, not you.
No, not me.
How does that really feel, Bryan?
Look, Look, most of my career has been in customer service, so I think that I know a thing or two about giving good customer service and, how do you make things right for a customer? And a lot of haunts are completely missing the mark.
Yep, there with working with an Amazon DSP, it's insane.
I believe it. So this kind of leads us into what do people want to know, right? They want to know the obvious things. Was it scary? Am I going to be touched? Things that they also probably want to know that they may not be voicing right away. How long was the wait? Am I standing in line for 3 hours? Because I'm just going to go ahead and buy the VIP Fast Pass if that's the case. What else is there to do? Are there escape rooms? Are there games? Is there merch? Is there other stuff that I can be doing? Maybe I want to get there really early and go through the haunts, and then I want to, go do the other stuff before a bunch of people show up. Or if there's nothing else to do, well, screw it, man. Let's just, go waste time. We'll go we'll go during the middle of their operating day. And ultimately, people want to know, is it worth the money, right? Hey, I paid $25 to get into this place. Great. Was that a good deal? Was that good value for you? Or do you think you overpaid? And, ultimately, that's what I'm trying to figure out when I order something on Amazon, right? I'm looking at customer reviews and I'm going, okay, but is it worth the money that they're charging? I'm trying to think of what the last thing I bought on Amazon was. Oh, I bought a water pick, right? So I'm going through the customer reviews and I'm like, well, it's $10, right? But is it worth that $10 at least? And, the customer reviews, all were, said good things. And so, okay, yeah, sure. It's worth $10. Why not? All right. For $10, I'll go and buy this thing. And if it sucks, then whatever, it was $10. But I probably wouldn't have bought it if all the reviews were 1 star saying like, well, it broke the first time I used it and it's worth $1. And, if it listed all these really bad things and there weren't really any pros to it, well, then no, I'm not spending the money on that. It wouldn't be worth the money, and I would be able to glean that information from the customer reviews. Again, we all do this all the time, Maybe some people just don't realize it, but, So we've talked about what should be in the review, but what about things that you should leave out, right? Like, my big one here is nitpicky suggestions, right? You go in and you find some teeny tiny little thing because you feel like you need to add something technical to make yourself sound smart when in fact you're probably not. Here's the thing, man. You're not an authority on whatever subject you're bitching about, so nobody cares.
No.
The sound wasn't EQ'd properly. Get the fuck out of here. I don't care. The sound was good enough. Did you hear the sound? Great. It was EQ'd properly enough. Oh, that species of vampire bat is inconsistent with the place you live in? Nobody fucking cares. Go somewhere where that vampire bat does live. They bought that sound on fucking CD 20 years ago. It's the sound of bats, man. Like, you're the only person that knows this.
Well, what about if you see like a water bottle or some food in the corner that obviously isn't supposed to be a part of the set?
Oh, God forbid that they have to eat while they work.
Right, and to be honest with you, I don't find those nitpicky, right? If you're really hammering in, you're really needling on like, oh my God, water bottles. If it was really bad, okay, yeah, that's something you should talk about. But, I mean, you saw one water bottle, I would mention it. We mention it, but we're also authorities on the fucking subject matter.
For sure.
If you're seeing things that's taking you out of the immersion, it is something to talk about. But, to really harp on it, to really needle in on that sort of thing, like, you're taking away from the rest of the review in that case. Yeah, I know that's water bottles and things that take you out of the immersion like that. It's a tricky one to balance. Personally, I would default as a customer to not talking about it unless you can really find a way to mention it and be constructive about it.
Right.
In these scenes, we saw water bottles, we saw backpacks, we saw, actors' jackets and whatever. Maybe those should go somewhere else is a good way to phrase that.
Yeah, I think so. It depends on the intention, like we were talking about earlier, the audience and who you're writing to. Like if it's a customer review, most likely you're writing to other customers. So like the water bottle isn't gonna really
affect all.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like I said, it's worth mentioning it, but don't really, hammer down on that one point. Because it's worth mentioning because that haunt is going to read your review most likely. They need to know about that sort of thing. If it's a night where somebody from the Scare Factor isn't going to be there because let me tell you something. If we see it, we're absolutely talking about it.
1000%.
It takes you out of the immersion. Look, we're here to give you an honest review, so what other things do you guys think you should leave out of a customer review? Like what shouldn't be in there?
I mean, I guess to go along with like when people complain about the sound, sometimes they also complain about, oh, there's too much smoke and too much fog, but the scene that you might be in is a swap scene. And it's like, no shit. Of course there's going to be fog in this. Like they're trying to create the illusion of water. Or I've heard stuff about the lighting before. And I get it. Like obviously something that would be put in would be if there's like a lot of flickering lights because you want people to understand. But most times they have warnings for those. But some people just complain about that one light was just so bright. And it's like, all right. And the rest of them were perfectly fine. Like, chill out. You're okay.
Yeah. So complaints really is what that boils down to is if you're complaining about something, don't bother putting it in the review.
Right.
I don't know. Is there anything else we're missing there? Like things you really shouldn't put in? I think complaints is really a good umbrella term there.
Not that I can totally, like, I mean, I've been through several and like they're not all perfect to what I would find as a perfect haunted house. But again, I've never really been scared throughout a haunted house. So I go through to see the story unfold, and the few jump scares are really awesome, but I just don't get scared. But other than that, there's really nothing that I've ever complained about. I've just always had people around me who complain about one thing or another, and I'm like, you guys missed the entire thing because that one thing haunted you through the whole attraction.
Hey, it haunted them. She said the thing.
She said the thing.
So, okay, so don't bitch too much in your review. That's probably a good thing. So how much should you write? Give me a number. How many words? Exactly how many words do I need to write?
Oh, for a customer review, I'd say like, I don't know.
10,000 is probably like a good start, right?
I was
yeah,
gonna say 1,000, Bryan.
No, 10,000 right there. I want them to read everything I felt when I went through.
I mean, my reviews with the Scare Factor are usually average around half of that.
Gotcha.
I tend to write between 3,000 and 5,000 words for my reviews.
That's a professional review, Bryan. We're talking about customer review here.
I mean, probably because a lot of people don't. Like, the ones who are going to write the most are the ones bitching about it. But, like, on average, most people with really good comments are probably somewhere around, like, 150 to 300 words because they want to talk highly about it, but they don't want to go into all that detail. You also don't want to make it super long, even with a good comment or a bad comment, because I'm the person, after I realize how long it is, I stop reading. I'm like, I ain't reading all that.
Fair enough. So it should be long enough to convey the facts of your visit, what you thought about your visit, but it's probably more than a one-word review that says scary, right?
Sure.
Oh, for sure.
It's probably somewhere between 1 and 10,000 words.
Probably. I think you're spot on here. It's very narrowed down.
Yeah, if
you're writing look, if you're writing more than 10,000 words, I think you've just completely missed the point. You've gone off the deep end there.
We're at a short story at this point.
I need a complete novella about this place that you went to.
Might as well do a video on it too while you're at it.
I mean, I do for a lot of the ones I go to now. Yeah, I'm shoot video. So I wrote this thing, and it's setting the tone. And so what I mean by this is setting the tone of your review, setting the tone of what you're writing. And to be honest with you, I really don't have a good way to articulate this, right? When I set the tone of my reviews on the Scare Factor, it's a natural thing for me, right? Because I have an established writing style. I have an established tone that I can write into. So I'm hoping that maybe you guys have some insight that we can give to people for, like, how do you set the tone of what you're writing? Because I ain't got shit.
So much pressure, Bryan.
Well, when I normally write, because I like to write short stories and stories in general, normally the tone for those kind of things are on the, like, ominous, kind of just going with the vibe kind of feeling. Like, it's almost like adrenaline rushing is when I'm like, how that tone feels. But for, like, a review, I would almost just make it like neutral. Like I don't want to influence people to feel like my words go only to the good side or only to the bad side. I want them to read it as if this is some kind of medical document. Like it's not boring, but it's just on the neutral side, and then they make their own decision and they can lean one way or another.
Okay, fair enough. So you're trying to be as neutral and, unbiased as possible. I think that's a good way to approach it. And I think it'll help people kind of get into that, get into a tone that is uniquely them without really forcing a tone into their writing. I think that's a really good way to approach that. So speaking of setting the tone, let's talk about emotion. How do you convey emotion in writing, right? I'm hoping that we've all read books and short stories and things on the internet, and I'm hoping that most of us can kind of gather the sorts of emotions the author is trying to convey to us, right? So, what you're asking yourself is, how does an author convey happiness, sadness, anger, that they were scared, anything like that? And ultimately, it's going to come down to the exact word choice you're using. So, if you were really happy that you found this haunt that is just so perfect for you specifically, talk about that, right? Use words like, I was so elated that I found this haunt because it is absolutely 100% perfect in these ways, in A, B, C, and D, and I am overjoyed that this haunt owner expresses the feelings that I have on these things, right? You want to use these words that mean happy, right? And you want to use a lot of them. You want to use a lot of synonyms. Break out the thesaurus, boys and girls, because you're going to fucking need it. But on the other hand, if you're upset or you're angry about something, right? How do we, you're going in and you're using words that mean upset and angry, right? I was furious with the customer service ticket agent that, laughed at my t-shirt and said I was 5 years old because I showed up wearing a Barney and Friends t-shirt. you know, you want to use words that mean the feelings that you were experiencing, but also if you were upset by something, explain what was upsetting to you and why that was upsetting to you. And you want to do that in as much detail as you can, right? Because what you want here is you want your reader to feel the same thing that you felt, be that happiness, anger, sadness, whatever it was, you want them to feel that in the same way.
I think that just as important as word choices, like using your five senses, like writing them down, like what did you see, what did you hear, like those things, like really help the reader feel the emotion that you're trying to convey, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Scent is a big one that we're starting to see in more haunts now. If anybody has read my latest review of Demon Acres in Hannibal, New York, you will know that they are making use of scent in their haunt, and they won an award for the best use of scent.
That's awesome.
That's all I'm gonna say. Go read the review. There's in one of their finale scenes, they are using a scent. It's very realistic. It's very realistic.
That's awesome.
That's one way to describe it. Yeah, let's go with that.
Oh, I feel like it just smells like shit now.
Absolutely does. Yeah, it smells like shit. So the scene is you walk into a bathroom scene, and this is an homage to an older scene they had where Jojo the Clown was in there. And it was like a bathroom scene, and this actor who went by Jojo the Clown, he had an upside down plunger that had something in it, and he would offer to you. He'd say, "Hey, you want some of my poopsicle?"
Oh, nice.
And so the first time I went through, I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll have some." And I just reached out, and I got a little bit of whatever was in there on my hand. It felt really cold, so I'm thinking it was maybe it was frozen yogurt or ice cream or something, because he was eating whatever it was.
That's gross.
Yeah.
Whole time,
Sorry,
Jojo.
But it was it hadn't been chocolate ice cream or frozen yogurt, something to that effect that he could just sit there and eat it all night. But Like, yeah, bro was eating whatever he had in this upturned toilet plunger. So the new scene is a bit of an homage to that, where you walk in, it's a new bathroom scene, and it just, oh my God, it smells so strongly of shit.
As a customer, how would you have wrote about that experience, Bryan?
The exact same way I did in my professional review.
Well, then I guess you're gonna have to go read it, huh?
The short story.
That's right. Yeah, you're gonna have to go read all 4,000 words of that review.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, but like that's, it's a good point though. Is like I wrote about that in as much detail as I thought I could without throwing up, and that is to say I could have written a lot more detail.
The whole time I'm like, man, you could have just farted in there and no one would have known.
Oh, I
Joseph's already in
absolutely
there.
did. I absolutely ripped ass walking through that scene. Like, who's gonna fucking know, huh?
It already smells like shit in here anyway.
That's right. And I feel so bad for the poor actor that was in that scene. I feel like you just kind of go nose blind to it after a while.
I wonder if they were using that fart fog thing, like that fart spray.
There's no telling.
It's hard to tell. I think so. I had gone online and I had looked up the different scents that they were using in other scenes and other attractions, and I think I came across the vendor that they had bought from, just because like there's too many similarities, right? That being said, I could be way off. They could have just purchased all of these from Froggy's, because Froggy's does offer, scents that you can put into your foggers, and it's you can have scented fog, no problem, and so it's possible that they had purchased from Froggy's. I wouldn't doubt that, just considering the popularity of Froggy's and just how ubiquitous their products are in the haunt world. But it was, oh my God, it was awful.
Definitely memorable, though.
Without a doubt, memorable, right?
Yeah.
But like, hey, that's a good thing for a haunt, right? You want somebody talking about this forever.
Sure.
You want them to remember that experience. That ultimately is what it comes down to, right? If people remember the experience they had, they're going to talk about it for a long time. They're going to put in the review. Other people are going to read that review and they're going to go, I got to go see the shit room.
What a new thing to do, too. Like, I didn't know people were doing that. But that's actually really cool, because what if it's not particularly scary, but people are talking about it because different rooms just have all of these different scents, and that's actually awesome.
That's definitely more immersive, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one way that I think haunts are trying to break down the barrier of, immersion, right? So think about this. This is a question that I asked at a behind the scenes that we were shooting a month or two ago. And I think this is a question I want to ask of more haunts is, what are you doing as a haunt owner and as a scene designer to immerse guests in the scenes even further, right? So imagine you're in an indoor haunt, right? It's all indoors, and you have a scene where you have the facade of a building, you have the outside facade of a building. Well, what you're telling your guest is you are outdoors, but all of the environmental cues that guest is getting is telling them anything other than you're outdoors, right? You're sweating your ass off because you're inside, and you can hear the air compressors and the foggers and the, other people screaming and all this stuff that's going on. You're not feeling the wind in your hair. You're not feeling that cool night air. None of the environmental cues that you're getting are telling you that you're outside, right? So I think that the use of scent is something that haunt owners can use to help break down that barrier, right? Well, I'm telling you you're in a bathroom. Your visual cues are telling you you're in a bathroom. But what about the environmental factors, right? Well, it doesn't really smell like a bathroom now, does it? Well, enter shit smell. Now it smells like a bathroom. What if you're trying to tell your guests you're at the circus because there's clowns and I have, big top themed scenes. Okay. My visual cues are telling me I'm at the circus, but the environmental cues aren't there. I don't smell cotton candy and popcorn and all the things that I would experience, the things that like when you're at the circus, because you smell these things, there's you're gathering all these environmental cues that maybe you're not consciously thinking about them, but when you don't experience them, you know something's wrong. Something's off here, and you're trying to put your finger on it. So I think it's a great way for haunts to do that. Sorry, we're going way off topic. I'm trying to kill time here.
No, I love it. Like, it's the same thing. Like, there's been multiple haunts that you have to go through, like a subway or like a train kind of scene.
Hmm.
And even though visually you're like, okay, this is a haunted train, subway scenario, but the smell, I mean, granted, I
Sure.
haven't been on many trains or subways, but if it smelled like sweaty feet and piss, like, I'd be like, this is a train. Like, this is a subway.
Yeah.
Like,
This is the New York City subway system.
right.
Well, and like not only that, but you also have the environmental cues of like, if you're on the train, well, if you've ever been on a train, you'll know that the train car kind of wobbles a little bit as it goes over the imperfections in the rail. It's not perfectly stationary. So, you should be feeling these little bumps and wobbles as the train goes down the tracks. That's what's telling you you're on the train, right?
Yeah.
So, it's little environmental cues like that. And I think more haunts would do better to consider all of these environmental cues, but they are hard to identify when you don't know, like when you're not actively thinking about them in the real life situation of that scenario. If I go and get on a train, well, like, yeah, I know I'm on a train because everything around me is telling me I'm on a train. But you're not thinking about the little bumps in the track and, the smells that you're smelling, and it all needs to add up just right to tell you that, yes, you're on a train.
Yeah, especially for people who get normally scared throughout attractions. But if there was more elemental parts about it, it'd be such a better story. Like when you're outside, you're like, I wasn't really scared, but this fucking room was awesome because it did this and that.
And I think those cues can help make somebody like you or me more scared, right? Last week we talked about how like don't really get scared in a haunt, right? Because it's all so cartoonish and fake in some way. I think that as haunts become more and more realistic in the immersion factor, the more they can really sell you on the setting and the things that are taking place right before you. I think the more likely it is that somebody like me is going to be scared by, something that's not a complete phobia, right? And I look forward to that day. I would like to see the day where I really believe that I'm in the park at night and there's a monster in front of me. But right now it's like, no, I'm inside this warehouse and I'm sweating my ass off and I can hear the air compressor go off when that animatronic moves.
Yeah.
It's none of it's adding up for me. I'm missing the immersion and the environmental cues.
For sure.
And it's a question I like to ask haunt owners, because the last haunt owner I asked this to, they're like, that's a great question. I'm going to start looking into that. So the answer, I think, for a lot of these haunt owners is, I never considered that, right? They didn't know that was something that like, but it's absolutely true, right? You're absolutely right. These factors have to be there in order for it to be believable.
I think that leads right into our next topic.
I think it does. Thank you for getting us back on topic. I'll talk all day. Talk all day about this shit. Yeah. What are we looking for in haunts, and what can you look for to write a better review? Environmental cues, right? Immersion. How immersive is it?
Right.
That's one of them.
And then, like, how are the actors? Like, what are the actors doing? Is there a storyline? Like, there's all kinds of aspects that we're looking for to write a better review.
Sure. And if you want to write a review just like we write ours, you can go to thescarefactor.com and you can look at any of the reviews we've written, and you can pull each one of those topics, and you can see all the questions that we're scoring on when we rate a haunt and when we write the review on that haunt. So you can see what do we cover? We cover cast, costuming, customer service, scare factor, which is how scary is it? Immersion,
special effects, and entertainment
value. I feel like I'm missing one. Tyler, Nora, I'm so sorry. I can't remember. I feel like I'm missing one. I should know this. I've been a member of the Scare Factor for 5 years, guys. Do you believe that shit?
Wow, that's awesome.
When you're
I've been
counting.
around for a while. Yeah.
I've been in it for 5 days. No, I'm just kidding.
but who's counting? So, yeah. So, like those are the things that we're looking at, right? You want to look at the cast. and the costumes, right? The costumes and who's wearing them is the acts, the behavior that this character is displaying consistent with the character that they're playing? Well, yes, no, maybe so. Maybe talk about those inconsistencies or talk about like, hey, this actor was doing a really great job. I really thought that they, played the role of the boogeyman really well. I was at a haunt, was it last year? I think it was this past season. I was at a haunt and there was like, they had an actor who looked just like Harold Ramis from Ghostbusters, who Harold Ramis famously played Egon Spengler, and like this kid that they had playing him really looked like Harold Ramis. So I was like, wow, man, you really look the part. And I think his act could have been a little bit better. Maybe he could have tried to get the voice down a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, he really looked the part. But I think he could have watched the movie a few more times. He could have really, gotten more of Harold Ramis's behavior down a little bit more, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So
really
if I was going
in.
to review that one specific actor, I would give him maybe around like a 7.5, just for like for his costume's really great, right? I'm sure who's to say if he had much say in the costume and what he wore, but the costume looked the part. He, as an actor, looked the part, which helps a lot. But, I think his acting specifically could use a bit of work.
Sure.
He's mostly there, but he could have used some work. So, and then we look at what's happening around that costume and the actor that's wearing the costume, right? So how well built are the scenes? How believable and realistic are they? What's happening in this scene, right? This is our immersion. How
Right. Does it
immersive
make
is
sense?
this?
Does it make sense if a clown is in an abandoned ghost town? Does that make sense?
Batman and the Belfry, as we so like to say here on the Scare Factor podcast. That's yeah. Well, why is Batman up in the attic? Oh, well, because bats in the
Bats.
Belfry, and he's a bat and he's in the attic. Like, okay. So, Batman and the Belfry, right? There's a problem there. So, like, you want to make sure that you want to pay attention to that sort of thing. Should this character be in this scene? Or as I like to say, maybe zombies shouldn't be in a prehistoric dinosaur exhibit.
You never know, Bryan.
That is a thing, though. Most people use zombies in every scene, and I get that zombies are people and they can be anywhere, but sometimes I feel like it's too much. Do zombies have to be everywhere?
Well, here's the thing. They can be anywhere except for among living dinosaurs, because humans and dinosaurs did not exist at the same time.
That's fair, I guess.
I really want to be like, but do we know?
we do, actually. I could get into the science if you want.
We don't have to.
We could.
You can. You want.
Tell me how you really feel about it.
Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah, no, like we can get into the science on this one if you really want to.
Can we bring Bill Nye the Science Guy on?
Bro, I would love to get Bill Nye. Bill Nye, if you're listening, please come on to the show. Please.
Go.
I beg of you. We'll talk about zombies during the prehistoric era, but during the Jurassic period. I want to know the likelihood of zombies existing with T-Rexes.
That's awesome.
Is it more than absolute zero?
I'm messaging him right now just to figure it out. No, I'm just kidding.
Please, for the love of God, do it. Get that man on this show.
In case you didn't know, we were tight, me and Bill Nye.
Yeah.
But...
yeah. So, like those are the sorts of things we're looking for as the haunt as a whole. And, we're looking at the customer service, right? Did we have a friendly experience at the ticket booth? Were the security guards on site helpful if we needed to ask them questions or anything? Were the other staff helpful and friendly? Or were they just complete jerks? Right? Those are the sorts of things we want to look at, that we want to see, that we're going to talk about. Entertainment and value. Well, what else is there to do on site? Do we think it's worth the money? Ultimately is what it comes down to. Now, at the Scare Factor for our reviews, we do minutes per dollar, right? So we take the amount of minutes that we were inside an attraction, and we divide that by the amount of money that it costs to go through to buy a ticket for this. And so, on average, what I found is around 1 minute for $1 is a pretty good conversion rate. However, I would much rather go see the greatest haunt in the world that has a minute per dollar rating of 0.1 versus, where I'm getting, 6 seconds for every dollar spent, but it's the greatest haunt in the world, rather than the complete opposite end of that, a minute per dollar rating of 10, right? I'm getting 10 minutes of value for every dollar that I've spent, or 10 minutes of haunts, right? But it's the worst haunt you've ever seen. I don't think we've had anything score a 1 on the site, but like that would be the haunt, right?
Yeah, that would be. Where you just go on a trail and there's like absolutely no actors or scenes or anything.
Oh, there's been so many times that's happened, and I'm like, this is actually shitty.
It's actually so bad.
So bad.
So bad.
But me and Morgan have had this conversation before where I was like, I kind of don't want people to know that I'm part of Scare Factor when I go through, because I don't want them to act any differently. Because I can recount anytime I've been through a haunted attraction and like things haven't been like super great. I don't want them to act any differently because they're like, oh, she's with Scare Factor. Like, let's do this and do that. No, I want them to think I'm an actual customer. That's how they treat everybody else.
Yeah. And that is a legit legitimate the concern that some of us have. Now, if you ask Tyler and Nora, they're not really that concerned about it. They're going to talk to pretty much every haunt they go to before they go, and you can't get comped tickets if they don't know you're coming. Now, I'm of kind of the same mindset that you have. Is I don't want them to know when I'm showing up. I don't care if they see my face and they go, "Oh, hey, Bryan's here. I didn't know we were getting reviewed tonight."
Right.
But it's like I don't want them to, and I'll say this as a former haunt actor, you do know when reviewers are coming through, right? We knew when a reviewer was going to show up because all our management would tell us, by the way, there's a reviewer coming tonight. Make sure you're on your A game. They're not telling us like, make sure, you go 110% for this person, but like they're saying like, hey, tonight's not the night to fuck up.
Right.
And that I think is kind of the mild end of, prepping your actors. On the other hand, this is the guy that's showing up, and they show your picture and they go, when you see him, you give him all the attention. That's the other side of it, is like, they're really nailing it in on you. And like, you think, wow, I'm having such a great time. This is such a good show. But is everybody getting that experience?
Right. That's why customer reviews are so important. So we know
exactly
what the customer is experiencing.
Exactly. And then, so like, special effects are something else that we look at, and we want to see, lighting design and sound design. Is it well done? Does it look good? Does it help the scene, or is it just like, yep, you got a strobe light in here. It's not really doing much for you, but you got it. That sort of thing. Are your special effects helping the scene and helping the story, or are they just there for the sake of being there? Because if it's the latter, it can really hurt your score. Like, yeah, it's cool, you got the strobe light, and like it kind of does this neat thing with the other parts of the scene, but like, what's the point? So, speaking of shit that looks really cool at haunts, photos. Where can you take pictures?
Pretty much anywhere except inside the haunt, unless they say it's okay.
Right. Common areas, almost always okay. You see queue actors roaming around, they come up, they scare you, whatever. Ask them for a photo. Don't just go up and immediately take a photo. I do that shit, but sometimes I do it because I know who that actor is personally.
Right. Yeah.
Don't just walk up to an actor and take a photo of them. Generally speaking, they're going to be okay with it because they understand that's why they're out there, to interact with guests, to get their picture taken, to do all that shit. Just ask. It's not so hard. Hey, can I take a picture of you? Right? Can I take a picture with you? Go take selfies with them. That's why they're out there. Go take pictures of the cool shit that you see out in the common areas, right? They got this cool scene set up for you to take selfies. Go fucking do it, man. That's why it's there. Once you go inside the haunt, though, inside the ticketed portion of that haunt, absolutely do not take a picture. It is not allowed. I cannot be held liable if your phone gets taken and stepped on. And in fact, I hope it does. Right? Unless the haunt says, hey folks, still photography is okay inside the haunt. Do not take photos inside the haunt. Video almost is never allowed inside the haunts. Now, we at the Scare Factor do video inside haunts, but that's because, again, we have good personal relationships with these haunt owners. We're reaching out to them and showing them, hey, here's our portfolio of things that we've done. Can we come and shoot a video like this at your haunts? Right? They understand the marketing implications that comes with that. They understand this is a good thing for them. When you as a customer do it, it's not the same. It doesn't carry that same weight. But yeah, you know what does help them as you as a customer? The things you can do to help them the most, leave a well-written customer review and take pictures and post them on social media. Take pictures outside in those common areas. That's what helps that haunt, on their marketing side. Because now people can see those things and they go, hey, I want to go there. That looks like fun.
A lot of haunts have photo opportunities for you as well, for you to go to and take pictures with. So,
which feels new for a lot of them. Like Talon Falls is an excellent one that we've been to for years. But when I went last year, they had photo opportunities, and I wasn't there when we were in high school. And it is interesting to see that places are changing for you to be able to take photos, so you can say, hey, I've been here. And that's normally how people talk about their experiences, when they have a place to take a photo.
Yeah, exactly. And usually there's a sign that says, like, hey, tag us on social media. They want to see this shit. They want to see people having fun at their haunts. So like, I think I've harped enough on don't take pictures inside. So the last thing you want to do when you write a customer review after you've written everything out is you want to proofread this, right? Grammatical, spelling, formatting, walls of text that are not readable are bad. I cannot express how bad they are.
tell us how you really feel, Bryan.
So I'll tell you how I feel. Please, for the love of God, make sure that what you're writing is readable by humans that have half a brain in their head. That'd be great. Thank you.
I don't want to, though. That's boring. I want it to be cryptic and a mystery.
Yeah, I could go onto Google right now and just go find really poorly written customer reviews of just anything, any business, anywhere. Most of them are just 5-star reviews that don't have anything written in there. It's just 5 stars. Like, okay, I guess it's good. I'll have to take your word for it.
What words, though, Bryan?
But on the other side of that, there's just the wall of text that's really poorly spelled and formatted, and the grammatical errors. Know the difference between your and your, two and two. What else am I missing here? There, and there. Please, for the love of God, folks, understand the difference between these. Don't use the wrong one. You'll look like a fucking idiot. And if English is not your first language, I'm sorry. Use a fucking translator. They exist. They're free to use. Google has one that you can use, no problem.
A big thing when I was, while I'm still in school, where we had to do anything with using words at all, like even if it was a small discussion board, you had to use some sort of document, like Google Docs or Word doc, to at least write it all out so it would make sure that it was grammatically okay. And then you would submit it.
To make sure it was grammatically? Not grammatically.
Oh, grammatically. It's like caramel and caramel, but potato.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, that's that like Kentucky, Indiana English. That's that dialect. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, I can write real good, but I can't speak real good.
I can write okay. Yeah, I mean, like that. Ultimately, yeah. Make sure the grammar in what you're writing is correct. Grammarly is a really good resource. We at the Scare Factor use it a lot. I don't, because I'm a perfect human that writes perfectly the first time every time. But I understand that not everybody is as good as me.
I'm just not allowed to use it, so I don't have it. For school, they literally say that that's AI, so I can't use
Grammarly?
it.
Really? Hold on, let me tell you something. I have been using Grammarly since before AI was a thing, okay? Now, I'm in my mid-30s, so do the math on when I went to college, when I went to high school. we were using Grammarly in high school and in college. That is so dumb. Use it. I would say use it, because who's gonna know? Like, all it's doing is correcting your grammar.
Oh, apparently they know, because I accidentally used it, and then they were like, "Oh my god, did you use Grammarly? This came up as AI," and I was like, "Oh my god, I did not."
That is a whole discussion for another time. Yeah, I mean, the use of AI in schools and in academic writing. I mean, yes, there are AI detectors out there and you can feed text through it, but like, how accurate are those? Because those are run on AI. So which AI do I trust?
Right. Got AI bots fighting other AI bots out there.
At some point this season, we're going to have an episode on the use of AI in haunts and how do you use it? How do you best use it, and where should the line be drawn? But I'll say this, I think it does have a use in the creative fields.
Sure. Absolutely.
But I do think that there is a line that needs to be drawn. I have a lot to say on it, especially as a musician, as a visual artist, right? As a photographer. I have a lot to say when it comes to AI.
Stay tuned.
I understand everybody has their own feelings on this. Some people are just A-okay with whatever fucking slop AI pumps out. I'm not one of those people, but I think that it can help you brainstorm in certain ways. But we'll discuss that in that episode. I'm not going to get into it here because, we are starting to come up on our time here.
God, I love AI. I'm gonna just throw that out there. Such an AI freak.
It's helpful. It's helpful a lot, but like you said, Bryan, that's for another episode.
It absolutely is. So, all right. So that's about all the time we've got for today. I think that when it comes down to it, writing a customer review is not going to be all that difficult for most people, unless you're a total idiot that doesn't understand how to write, which, I take that back. It is going to be difficult for most people. So, you can follow The Scare Factor on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Check out our website, thescarefactor.com, to read reviews, find haunts, and check out the newest section. I'm not redoing this a second time. Spooky Spots, where you'll find fun and spooky places to go all year round. This podcast is available on Spotify, Buzzsprout, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Deezer, Player FM, and Podcast Index. Basically, if you're listening to it, you found it. The Scare Factor is now an affiliate of Frankenfuel, energy drinks for weirdos like you. Yes, you. You can get 15% off your order today by going to frankenfuel.com/scarefactor or by clicking the affiliate link in the show's description. Frankenfuel. Wake the dead. Fuel the living. We have been Bryan of Team Skelegore.
Morgan of Team Brady Pack.
Taylor with Team Brady Pack.
And this has been the Scare Factor Podcast. Stay scary.